Okay, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our Year 7 Parent Transition webinar. Your children have already heard from the Year 7 team in their own transition assembly, and this week they've been taking part in some transition activities led by their new head of year. Now it's your turn to find out a little bit more about life on our secondary campus. My name is Lauren Binnington, and I am the Deputy Head Teacher responsible for enrichment across the school, and I'm excited to guide you through the next 30 minutes or so, where different members of the secondary campus team we'll share with you more about the learning, pastoral care, co-curricular experiences and guidance that await your child in August. There will be a chance for your questions to be answered live at the end of the session. However, if you do have questions at any point during the presentation, please just write them into the chat or in the Q&A, and one of our team will answer you. We do have questions and responses available in English, Vietnamese and Korean as well. So without further ado, we'll get straight started, and I would like to welcome Mr. Sean O'Neill, Head of Secondary Campus, to start the proceedings. So welcome, Sean.
Thank you, Lauren. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. I know we all wish that we could be together in person, but I am so glad that we are able to meet virtually and I am able to welcome you all to the secondary campus community. I'd like to extend a special welcome to all our new families who are joining us from different schools in Vietnam and from all around the world. You will find BIS Ho Chi Minh City, we are a welcoming community based on strong values who share challenges and celebrations together with collective purpose and warmth. I understand the excitement and yes, the slight apprehension as our sons and daughters make their journey to secondary school, beginning their high school career. In fact, I am in exactly the same place as you right now, because I am a year 6 parent too. And my son is also making the transition from year 6 to year 7 in August. I, like you, am wondering just how the last 11 years have flown by so quickly. And we're here at this point now. In this afternoon's session, I'd like to give you a flavour of life on the secondary campus, the education we provide and the support in place to help all our children make a successful transition and to thrive at secondary school. As we start your transition to life at secondary school, I'd like us to begin by looking at another transition that will be with us before we know it. This is a picture of our graduation ceremony held last year in the Park Hyatt in Saigon. This too is a moment of transition. In 7 years' time, our sons and daughters will be making the same transition to universities around the world. And everything we do between now and then prepares them for that transition. Yes, our graduating students leave with the grades they need to access the world's best universities. But more than that, our students leave BIS with the skills and aptitudes to flourish at university and beyond, with the character to look after their own well-being and that of others, and to make a positive impact on the world. So how do we do this? Well, we focus on education that is balanced. We want a balance between academic success, character development, and well-being. And that is the education that your sons and daughters will enjoy from August. Academic success is important because of the opportunities it opens and the transferable skills and the discipline it requires. Yet academic success alone is not a true education. We believe we develop character through ensuring our students are exposed to opportunities and rich experiences that take them beyond their comfort zone and ask them to collaborate and to lead beyond the classroom. We also believe that it is our responsibility to build positive well-being in our young people by fostering a positive sense of self, a relationship with others and the wider world, so they can flourish wherever their paths take them. So in today's webinar, you will hear from senior colleagues on the secondary team who lead on each specific aspect of this part of our education. So key to what we do here at BIS is a balance between support and challenge. And we believe that that's how growth occurs, by getting that balance right. So there are going to be lots of academic challenges, as well as personal and social challenges, as students make the journey through adolescence and through each phase of their secondary education. You will see that the challenges are high. We have high expectations of ourselves and each other. We expect everything we do here at BAS to be done with care and to a high standard. But where there is challenge, we balance it with high levels of support, and that's how we ensure growth. So your role as parents is to focus on the support. We will bring the challenge through the rich experiences at school, but that needs to be supported by us all working together. Now, one of the key ways in which we create the framework for our children to thrive is through having a strong set of values. And I just want to give a very brief flavour of those values here. The values there that you see on the screen, that's a statement that's written by our student council. And these values underpin daily life on the campus. So they're written by the student council, and they describe how each member of the school community conducts themselves on a daily basis in their approach to school life and their interactions with each other. These cover people, learning, spaces, and technology, and are in every student's journal. And they very much are the values that will underpin your child's experience here on the secondary campus. So as our students make the transition to a new campus, enjoying and exploring the new spaces and buildings is exciting. And I wanted to share with you just an overview of how we use the spaces when students are not in lessons, to give you a flavour of how we use our campus to encourage the behaviours and school culture that we seek to promote. We want our students to benefit from the main resource that they have on campus, and that is each other. We want them to, when they're not learning and when they're not in lessons, to unplug, to connect, to enjoy downtime and activity. So we encourage different social spaces around the campus. So students have a choice of spaces and activities at break and lunch times to suit their preferences. This moment of choice is another part of the independence that we foster here on the secondary campus. So all of our social and eating spaces are technology-free zones, with technology only allowed for learning purposes in our study zones. You'll see from this brief diagram here, there's so many spaces for our students to choose from. They've got free choices to where to access on the campus, and you can see that for each area we have a designated purpose. And so that sense of choice and balance is really an important element of life on the campus that your sons and daughters will enjoy. So one of the things we ask ourselves all the time as educators, and I think as parents too, is a question that has really captured, thousands and thousands of research papers, educational studies written to try to answer this question: what makes great learning? What are the factors that contribute to great learning for our young people? And although there are thousands and thousands of different research papers, and they all have different emphases, they tend to suggest that there are four key components that come together to make great learning for our children, that create the conditions for them to thrive. And they're student well-being, student attitudes to learning, exposure to high quality teaching, and parental engagement. In many ways, like plants in a greenhouse, children need slightly different conditions, but all children need these four things in place to really thrive. So what do we ask of you as secondary campus parents? Really, we ask that you work in partnership with us to create the conditions for your child's learning, by ensuring they have a healthy, balanced lifestyle of sleep, diet, and exercise. That is the main way that you can ensure that they're equipped to learn. We ensure that they have a good space to learn when they're at home, but also, most importantly, that you actively engage in your child's learning, talk to them about their learning, their experiences in their school day, and that you work in partnership with us, that you communicate with us and keep us informed of anything we can do to support your child further. So it's this partnership that will be the theme of this evening's webinar, and indeed our relationship over the coming years. By working in partnership, we'll ensure our students, your sons and daughters, thrive in each aspect of school life. My colleagues on the senior team will guide you through each area of how we support your child's transition to life on the secondary campus. Back to you, Lauren.
Thank you, Sean. So I will now hand over to Mrs. Amy Murphy, our Deputy Head Teacher responsible for curriculum and learning on our secondary campus, to introduce you to the transition in learning from primary to secondary. So over to you, Amy.
Thank you, Lauren. Good afternoon, everybody. It's really nice to have you all with us this afternoon. And as Mr. Onion has already said, obviously we'll be giving you some information about many different areas of life on the secondary campus. I'm going to concentrate for my section of the webinar on learning and around different aspects of learning that will support your understanding of how learning may be slightly different on the secondary campus compared to the primary campus or the schools that you're in currently. So the key thing to begin with is the shape of the Key Stage 3 curriculum. We organise the curriculum around what are known as core and foundation subjects. The core subjects are English, mathematics and science, and the foundation subjects are, as you can see on the screen there, art, computing, DT, drama, geography, history, a modern foreign language, which is either Chinese, French or Spanish, music, PE, Vietnamese and well-being. And you'll hear a little bit more about our bespoke well-being curriculum a little bit later in the presentation. All students take all of those subjects. There may be some slight variations for students who receive EAL or learning support. That support is delivered via the means of withdrawal for a very small number of students. If that is the case for any of your sons and daughters, you will have had communication around that already. Thanks, Lauren. In terms of how the day is organised, because everybody experiences all of those subjects, there is a slightly different shape of the day potentially compared to the primary experience. There is much more movement around school because each of those specialist lessons has a specialist teacher. And there are different classrooms for every lesson, and some of those classrooms are specialist rooms, so science is in a science lab, drama would be in one of the drama studios, DT in a DT classroom and so on. Students are mostly taught in tutor groups for the vast majority of the subjects. There are some subjects where students are reorganised, for example, in modern foreign languages, and students are set in mathematics, but otherwise they are in their tutor groups for the vast majority of the week. Now, with the movement around the school and obviously different subjects at different times of the day, the need for greater independence, which again is a theme that's going to come up throughout the presentation this afternoon, is really significant. So students being organised, making sure that they pack their bags the night before, they have the right equipment that they need, and that they take it to each of the lessons that they need it for, is of fundamental importance. And obviously there will be support to remind students of that initially, but those expectations are there from the very beginning of Year 7. Thank you. In terms of the shape of the curriculum and the actual content of the curriculum is progressive in that it builds on what the students have been learning in the primary school. You'll be familiar with the notion, if you are a BIS parent already, of our age-related expectations, which were developed across the whole school and ensure a vertical articulation of the content and the constructs that are part of the curriculum. So each year will build on the previous year's learning. So Year 7 will follow on from what was in Year 6, and then looking ahead, Year 8 obviously will follow on from Year 7 and so on. Ultimately, equipping students with the knowledge, the skills and the understanding to enable them to flourish as learners now, but also to develop what they'll need to help them succeed when it comes to IGCSE in Years 10 and 11 and the International Baccalaureate Diploma Programme in Years 12 and 13. If you would like to find out a little bit more about the shape of the curriculum and understand more around the topics and the content of each of the subject areas, the curriculum handbooks are all available on the school website. If you access the landing page of the website, you will see where that teal arrow is pointing towards the Parent Essentials section. If you click on that section, it will take you to a page where you would need to look at school publications and documents, which will take you to all of the different handbooks and publications that you may wish to access as a parent. But in particular for you, the Key Stage 3 curriculum guide is on that page, which gives you that overview of the curriculum content in each subject area, as well as the age-related expectations, and also the contact details of any key staff who you may wish to get in touch with at any point to find out more about your child's learning or the curriculum, or any other questions that you might have about life on the secondary campus. There is homework as part of a Year 7 student's learning diet, if you like. And again, we have an expectation around students recording their homework and managing their time. This is where the student journal will come into play. And again, you will hear a little bit more about that later. But this is a place where students can record their homework, as well as deadlines and when things need to be completed. We do support the organisation of time through a homework timetable, which is shared with students, which they also write down in their journals. So it does help them to structure their independent learning. There will be a staggered start for homework for subjects. So initially, while students are getting to grips with moving around the school and learning the routines, it will just be concentrating on English, mathematics and science. And later we will introduce the foundation subjects as well. The key principles behind the homework that teachers will set is that it's meaningful. It has to complement or extend learning that's taking place in the classroom. It needs to be manageable, because we want things to be in balance, picking up on what Mr. O'Neill talked about earlier. Yes, of course, we have high expectations in terms of academics and academic progress and attainment, but also we want our students to have a balance and enjoy a very broad, holistic education while they're with us. In terms of thinking about our students and how they learn, we very much believe that everybody is capable of becoming a better learner, and we can all learn to learn more effectively. And we've had a significant focus on this as a school, and you can see on the slide here our BIS learning skills, which are organised under those 5 areas, if you like, of collaboration, communication, critical thinking, independence and reflection. And throughout Year 7 and beyond, our students are encouraged to reflect on themselves as learners and how they can become more effective learners. And many of the activities that will take place both in and outside of the classroom will focus on developing those learning skills. Intelligence isn't fixed. It's very much about having a growth mindset and a belief that everybody is capable of progress and improvement. And sometimes it's about thinking about the processes that we go through as learners to ensure that we become the best versions of ourselves in that respect. And to echo what Mr. O'Neill mentioned previously, nowhere more so than learning is this partnership between students, staff and parents working together more important. Throughout the year, we will run a range of different parent workshops, which will focus on different aspects of how you can support your child's learning at home. And also we will update you regularly in terms of how your children are progressing with reports and PTSCs, or parent teacher student conferences. The first of which will have a pastoral focus, and that will take place on Monday, the 4th of October. Obviously, at any point, if you have any other questions that you would like to ask our teachers, you don't have to wait for the reports or for the PTSCs. It's really important that we have a dialogue between home and school. So as Mr. O'Neill said earlier, we can support you in the best way possible, and you can help us to support your children as well. Okay. I'd like to hand back to Lauren now, who will move things forward in the proceedings. So thank you very much for your time this afternoon, and I look forward to meeting you all in August.
Thank you, Amy. So our next section of the presentation will take you through your child's personal and social transition to the secondary campus. So to take us through that, I'd like to introduce Mr. Gareth Wills, Deputy Head Teacher, Welfare and Guidance, to tell us a bit more. So welcome, Gareth.
Thank you. Good afternoon, all. I'm going to be talking about wellbeing and also the wellbeing structures that are in place to support your child's transition and also their ongoing time in BIS. So you'll see on the screen that this is the definition of well-being that we use. The definition frames our thinking and entire approach to well-being and pastoral care. We strive in the secondary section to provide students with a toolbox to help them deal with all of life's challenges and enable them to thrive and flourish fully as learners within the school. For us, there are many strands to wellbeing. They encompass different aspects and different support structures and approaches to wellbeing, all of them tied together to give the best possible support and care for our students. So you'll see that there's a general framework on screen. One of the key strands that I alluded to before was the support structures. We have many interconnected layers of support for our students, from the form tutor at the base level, providing the day-to-day support, right through to highly experienced leaders of pastoral care, all the way up to myself, and including a head of wellbeing and a counselling team. These layers of support enable high levels of pastoral care for all of our students. So it's really important to bear in mind that your most essential point of contact throughout your child's time in both transitioning into the secondary section and throughout their entire career at school, that the form tutor is central for them. They provide the day-to-day point of reference for the vast majority of student needs. As you'll have seen in the previous slide, higher level needs can be supported by those further up, and issues can always be escalated according to needs and circumstance. Our overarching framework, and indeed our core foundation, is the PERMA model. Some of you will be familiar with this, and it's a model that we'll talk about further as you enter into secondary life. It's a positive psychology model that underpins everything we're doing, our approaches to transition, wellbeing, and pastoral support. All of our work with wellbeing and our pastoral care is based on high-level academic research. It's inspired by some of the leading thinkers in the field of child and adolescent development, wellbeing, and psychology. So you can rest assured that what we provide is the best globally, and the best provision that can be provided. So we know the essential role that wellbeing and good wellbeing plays in students' development and their academic outcomes. We attach a huge amount of importance to this approach to wellbeing. It's central in our BIS vision. We know the potential problems that can be caused by poor wellbeing, and of course we know the value that having good wellbeing can have, and its direct relationship with the chances of academic success. In terms of practicalities, we have a specific talk curriculum with a period each week timetable purely for the coverage of important aspects of wellbeing. This dedicated time is in place as we know that students need support with self-management, relationships, and resilience, all of which allow them to flourish, to thrive, and to access their academic learning more effectively. Our award-nominated curriculum focuses on wellbeing awareness building and also allowing practical application of aspects of wellbeing. We have dynamic and interactive lessons that promote discussion and exploration of wellbeing issues. The lessons are supported even further by tutor time activities, at least once a week, engaging assemblies. All of these really make wellbeing present and visible to the students. Key aspect of our approach to wellbeing is also connection. We cherish and promote the homeschool partnership and desire that you are engaged in it, as Mr. O'Neill has mentioned and as Ms. Murphy has mentioned throughout. We want you to engage in wellbeing issues and pastoral care. Key medium for our partnership is the student journal, which all of your sons and daughters will be getting possession of upon arrival at school. It serves as a space for reflection on wellbeing components, and also very practically it helps in terms of their organization, as it plays a role of a diary and a planner. Building on this idea of partnership, we share elements of our wellbeing curriculum to you as parents via the dinner table discussions. We hope that by engaging with these prompts, you can explore aspects of your child's curriculum and also gain more insights into their secondary journey. Over the course of the next academic year, we'll potentially also have wellbeing focused workshops and webinars to further embed and enrich this connection and spread knowledge of wellbeing. For us, transition is an ongoing process. It continues throughout Year 7. Our wellbeing curriculum and support structures allow for the support and nurturing of all of the students throughout their time in secondary school. All members of staff, both pastoral and academic, work closely in partnership to ensure that students' transitions are effective and they they find joy and have great well-being in the secondary section. We have a strong focus on character development, and the wellbeing program, along with these support structures, help create the most conducive foundations that enable all of our students to thrive and reach their full potential. Thanks very much for your time. I'll hand back to Ms. Bennington.
Thank you, Gareth. So the next section is around the co-curricular provision on the secondary campus, which I'm responsible for as the deputy head teacher enrichment. So on the secondary campus, we have over 100 CCAs taking place every week for your child to participate in, along the themes of creativity, activity, service, and sustainability. So whether they're involved in a production, whether they enjoy basketball, teach English to our community partner children, or want to start a recycling project, there really is something for everyone here at the secondary campus. We encourage all students at secondary to participate in at least one CCA each week in school, which will enable them to become more involved in life beyond the academic curriculum, and also to work with students from other year groups and in other classes. Later in their secondary school lives, they will be able to actually propose their own CCAs and take the lead. And we have a number of CCAs that are led by students in year 9 and above that they can participate in and perhaps in the future take a lead on. What's really different about the CCA program at secondary is that you, our parents, won't have direct access to CHQ in the way that you have at the primary campus. All of the sign-ups for CCAs are done by the students themselves, and that's part of us developing their level of independence, and also enables them to manage their own program and become committed to the CCAs that they actually choose. But don't worry, we provide plenty of guidance through that process. And Mrs. Brownrigg, who is our co-curricular coordinator, is on hand to help at any time. So all of the information that you and your child will need to help you through that process is also on the BIS website. It's in the student section of the website. To complement the CCA program, we also have other opportunities for our students to develop their learning skills outside of the walls of the classroom and the curriculum through our Week Without Walls. Now, that might be by going on expedition as a year group or taking part in a program of activities designed by our teaching team and some external providers. All of those are aiming to challenge your child in their communication, collaboration, and leadership skills, as well as develop the BIS characteristics. Finally, we also have a rich student leadership program on the secondary campus, and year 7 students can become involved right from August by taking on the role of student council representative or house captain for their form. These students work very closely with our 6th form student leadership team, the head student team, to shape school life on the secondary campus. So it really is a truly amazing leadership experience. So I would encourage your child to get involved in that as soon as they can. More information regarding all of those opportunities will come in August. So that's all from me. So Mr. Johan Morgan, our head of year 7, who will be able to lead your child through the transition process and will share some logistics on the life of the secondary campus. Over to you, Johan.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's my pleasure to speak to you all today as the future head of year 7. I'm very much looking forward to meeting and getting to know the future year 7 students and working alongside all of you over the next year or so. Okay, so just to give you a flavor of the important people who will be you might be working alongside in year 7 in terms of leadership. We have myself, who will be the future head of year 7, and I will have an assistant in Miss Carol Forber, and we will both be looking at the marriage between academics and pastoral support to help year 7s through this very challenging year. But as Mr. Wills alluded to, there are going to be 8 individual form tutors who are going to be the first port of call for many of your concerns. So I urge you to build an earlier relationship with those members of staff and to really take advantage of the pastoral PTSC so you can meet and familiarize yourself with them. Other members of the staff body on the screen there may at some point be involved, but first and foremost, it will be the form tutors and then myself and Miss Forber. Now, I'm just going to talk a little bit about some of the processes that are unique to secondary and some of the common questions that students ask at the beginning of the year, but also throughout the year. And these are taken from the student journal, which every year 7 will receive in August. And you'll see a common theme that runs throughout some of the questions here, which is centered around the student center. Now, the student center is a fantastic space where students can go if they have any issues that pop up during the day. If they're late to school, they should go and register there. If they have a dental appointment, they should go to the student center to notify the staff there. It's also where the heads of year are based if they're not teaching. And it's just a really good place for students to go if they have any questions. There's also an email address for parents to use if they have any concerns or any questions about anything that happens in school. Now, one question that did come up in the student assembly last week was, what do we do if we witness bullying? And that was a really important question that needed addressing. And for the past few years, we have applied the Stop, Speak and Support policy. And this applies for cyberbullying as well as bullying on school, where students should step away from the bullying momentarily and seek support, speak to an adult or a teacher. If it's online, disengage from the online platform and then report it, and then ask a teacher or an adult to support with that specific incident. So this will be something which we reinforce over the first few weeks in secondary school. Okay, so that's the student centre. And as mentioned, Miss Nifam and Miss Camrian work there full time. Okay, so students, I would urge them to make sure they know where this is. So if they do have an issue, if they do get lost in those first few weeks, they know they can go there and there'll be a friendly face to help them. Okay, I'm now going to discuss a little bit about the common challenges of moving into the secondary campus and really balancing the changes that happen in year 7 and throughout the year. So regulating emotions and managing the ongoing transition can be a challenge. And as a response to that, we've built into the Year 7 wellbeing curriculum lessons which focus a lot on changing relationships and managing emotions as students go through many changes within school and outside school. But also time management and organisation, as Ms. Murphy alluded to earlier, are going to be big challenges with changes in the school day and just the general shape of life on the campus. We aim to foster a culture of recognising strengths and targets and building a practice of self-reflection. So students will be required to reflect on feedback each report cycle, and that is very much student-led. The students will guide them through the process, but students need to become accustomed to that process from year 7 onwards. And finally, some of the more general issues we see in year 7 are focused around just a general anxiety over making a mistake or getting something wrong. And it's important to reassure year 7s that everyone goes through the same process, and that the campus, as Mr. O'Neill pointed out, is a very friendly and warm and welcoming place. And if they aren't sure about anything, it's really important that they don't feel too afraid to ask. Any member of staff will be more than willing to help them. Okay, now on the flip side to that, we do want to foster student independence, and something which Mr. McLaughlin has been researching in past years is the notion of learned helplessness. And it's a cause for concern for many teachers in terms of the child's potential for growing into a self-reliant and responsible adult. And as parents, I urge you to encourage more, student agency, and to encourage your sons and daughters to make their own decisions. And that starts with things like choosing their own CCAs and so forth. So on that, if we go back to the learning skills lotus, I want to focus just on this idea of becoming an independent learner and building a culture of self-reliance. So one of the core BIS learning skills is independence, and this is an area which I really want to develop next year as year 7s progress through their secondary journey. So how can you as parents help with this process? So please do allow the sons and daughters to make their CCA choices. Build positive routines at home with regards to homework, packing the school bag, but also online maintenance. Students will receive a lot of emails through Google Classroom, and their Google Drives might get quite cluttered. So please do encourage them to develop positive routines to help them with that. Coach them to set goals and personal targets, and create a culture where taking risks and making mistakes is acceptable and is recognized as a way of learning and moving forward. Okay, so I'm going to talk a little bit about the secondary dress code. The main differences between the boys and girls is that the boys need to wear a black belt, okay? And please do support us in ensuring that students have black leather shoes, not black trainers, okay? If they have a soft sole or they have some white branding, then we will be asking them to replace them for a more traditional school shoe. Very much the same for the girls, okay? The girls will have the option of wearing trousers this year, so if they prefer that to the school skirts. Now, some of you will be asking, when can we pick up the uniform? Unfortunately, due to the current restrictions, you cannot come onto campus as you would usually do to pick it up from the auditorium. However, we will be liaising with all parents over the summer to provide a more update, an update on when you can do that. It's difficult to know at the moment, but we will be getting in touch very soon about that. Okay, so as Mr. Wills alluded to earlier, the student journal is a fantastic resource which I encourage you to really go through with children over the first few weeks. It's also a place that you can initiate a dialogue between the school and the home. And I think please do look at it at the end of every week and check that students are recording homework and are using it in the correct way, setting the deadline and really helping themselves to organize themselves, okay? In addition to that, we do have Google Classroom set up for every lesson. Okay, so students will sometimes be recording homework on here, but they should also write it down in their diary as well, just to support themselves. But it's important that you are familiar with Google Classroom, how it works, and you can support students in checking when deadlines are looming. I would also encourage you to help Year 6s to archive or delete any Year 6 classes before August to make sure that there aren't any unnecessary Google Classrooms which might clutter up their home pages. Okay, so as mentioned by Mr. Wills, we do have a very supportive and dedicated counselling and student support team. These will be on hand to support with any students who have more complex needs at any point of the year. If they feel as though they need to speak to someone in private, then Miss Zara Pugh and Miss Anne Ho are on hand to support with that, both of which have worked over at the primary campus. So that idea of continuity and consistency will really help Year 6s with this transition if they do see some familiar faces. And it's important to reassure them about that many of the staff in primary do often make their way over to secondary, and some work across both campuses. So it's a nice feature to try and reassure them over the first year. That's all from me this afternoon. Like I say, I really look forward to meeting you all in person in the Year 7 Open Day and starting the year on the right note. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Johan. So in terms of next steps, we do believe that a transition is very much a process. So you'll be receiving some information, some general questions and answers, and a snapshot of some of the information we've given today in our transition booklet, which you'll receive before the end of term. As Mr. Morgan said, we'll be informing you of, as and when we can, of the dates of how we'll manage the uniform collection for this year. Like so many aspects of school life, we're adapting our processes, to meet the current circumstances, and this will be another which will inform you well in advance and give you lots of a large window in order to collect your uniform and get ready for the year. Term begins on August the 18th, and there'll be a range of transition activities for the students on the first few days. So we're very much easing the students into life on the campus. And there will be an opportunity for you as parents to come to our Year 7 Open Day. early in September. So the first week of September, we'll invite you onto the campus where you'll have a chance to tour the campus, but also see learning in action, see your sons and daughters in the classroom. So lots of further phases of this transition process. So I hope you have a sense of the rich and exciting experiences that your sons and daughters are about to experience, and the range of support available to you. Now, in normal circumstances, if we were face to face, this is the point in the evening when we would invite you for a tour of our campus facilities. And whilst this is a shame, there's a little part of me actually that is quite pleased, because there is going to be quite a lot of work happening in terms of campus development over the summer. So when you are able to visit us on campus in August, September, then we'll have a range of new facilities to share with you. But for now, what I'd like to do is to just share with you a flavour of our current facilities that your students, your sons and daughters rather, will enjoy. Thank you.
Okay, so thank you to Johan and Sean there just for ending the presentation. And I hope you're all excited to join us in September on campus to be able to see those facilities and the new facilities that Sean mentioned there. And we've now reached the section of the presentation where we can answer any further questions that you have. I know that you've been asking them as you've been going through, and our team behind the scenes has been answering those. But if you do have any further questions, then now is the time to either type them into the chat or into the Q&A. So I'm going to invite all of our speakers back now to answer any questions, and we'll just go through and see if there are any that we need to answer. Okay, so we have one question here that, Amy, I think this might be one for you to answer. So this is, how many classes are there?
That's a good question. So the timetable is organised into 4 double periods a day. Most lessons are taught as a double period, with the exception of wellbeing, which is taught as a single period alongside a single period of mathematics. The core subjects have more curriculum time allocated to them. The foundation subjects have 1 double period per week. MFL has 2 double periods. So for English and science, there are 3 double periods a week. Maths, there are 2 doubles and 1 single. MFL, there are 2 double periods. Everything else has 1 period.
Thanks, Amy. This question was already answered, but it did just go to one person. So I'm going to answer it for everyone, just in case anybody's thinking the same thing. So this was, what is CCA choice? So I do realise that I talked about co-curricular activities and perhaps didn't actually say what they are. So these are activities that your child can engage in before school, at lunchtime and after school. There's 4 slots in the day. They're run by our teaching team and also with our community partners and some external providers, and they cover a wide range of creative activities, sporting activities and service and so on. So those are things that your child can get involved in outside of the normal school day and the normal curriculum that helps to just enrich their experience while they're here on the secondary campus. Many of them will have experienced the wide-ranging program on the primary campus as well, so I'm sure some of those won't be new to you. Okay, so that's that one. And let's have a little look. Mr. Morgan, this might be a good question for you to answer. So this is, will the students need to bring their own books and pencils?
In August, students will need to bring basic stationery, but we will provide their workbooks and exercise books. So no need to panic about going out to get books. Just bring basic stationery in August. But as Mr. O'Neill points out, we will be having a slightly staggered start. So students won't be launched straight into lessons on the first day. We will have a nice gradual start.
Thank you, Mr. Morgan. And Amy, just one clarification on what do we mean by a double period?
Sure. So the shape of a day, there are 8 single periods, but most subjects are taught as a double period together. So the lesson in total, a double period would be 1 hour and 15 minutes. And that's basically what I mean by a double period. Sorry, when you actually get the timetable and you see the copy of your sons and daughters timetables in August, that shape will make a little bit more sense. If you want more detail on that, please feel free to contact me and I can explain, and I can perhaps show you an example if you need to see one.
Thanks, Amy. And Sean, there's a question here, which is how many teachers are there in secondary? I don't know if you want to give a little bit of an overview about the teaching team and the secondary campus.
Sure, no problem. So yeah, we are extremely fortunate to have a highly skilled, large team of teaching specialists. So we will, this coming academic year, have around 100 teachers in secondary, or just be over 100 teachers, 102 teachers on the secondary campus. So they're divided into specialist departmental teams. It's also really important to say that every academic teacher also has a pastoral responsibility. So all colleagues here on the secondary campus are part of academic teams and pastoral teams, and that reflects that balance that we've been talking about.
Thank you, Sean. And Amy, just a question around homework. How much will the homework increase from year 6 into year 7?
Okay, well, as I said, the key principle behind the homework is that it's meaningful and that it's manageable. Homework should not take any more than 20, absolute maximum 30 minutes per subject, but it may be that not every subject will set homework every week. There will be a timetable that will give a shape to the homework that the students get. Very rarely will they have to complete a homework on the day that it's set, ready for the next day, if at all. But like I say, there are some subjects that are moving more towards a project-based homework, so it will be looking at learning over a period of weeks rather than, you know, an individual homework every week, for example. But it's only ever set if it's something that's going to, as I say, extend or consolidate or enhance the learning that the students have been doing. It wouldn't ever be set just because it was the day for the homework, because we do think that the need for balance is important there.
Thank you. And actually, there's one more question for you. You're getting all of the questions today.
Okay.
This one is around how many classes are there in total? So in the week, how many classes will they have?
In terms of the numbers of subjects, again, referring back to the slide that we had, there's the core subjects and the foundation subjects. It's that number of subjects basically, and again, all of those details are in the Key Stage 3 handbook, and the way that the time is divided up depends on the subject itself. So
okay, thank you. So I'm just going to leave it 30 seconds if any more questions pop in. So we have got one here, which is how large is the secondary building? Well, there are actually 3 buildings to the secondary campus. I'll answer this one. 3 buildings to the secondary campus, and each of our departments is housed in a different area of the campus. So the building that we've got a building with our auditorium, our theatre, science, sporting facilities. That's got 6 floors to it, that building, as well as our swimming pool in the basement. We also have our building which houses our English and maths and languages teams, which has 5 floors there, and that's also where our sixth form centre is. And our newest building has 3 floors to it, and that houses our humanities, so business studies and economics, history and geography. So that's how large the buildings are. Don't worry though, it is a large place to get around, but there's lots of travel time built into the timetable to allow your children to get around the campus. Yeah.
Also, Miss Bennington, there will be a new version of the school map placed in the Year 7 transition booklet designed by one of our Year 7 students, and that will detail very clearly where all the departments are, so students can get a feel for where things are before they start in August.
Thank you, Owen. And Gareth, just one question for you here. Will the form classes remain the same from Year 7 through to Year 9 and then beyond? Will the form classes be the same?
Yeah, hopefully you can hear me there. The vast majority of cases, the form classes will remain the same. Obviously, students may transition to other schools, which could cause a change, but for the majority of the time, it will remain the same. If there are ever occasions where parents are concerned about the mix, that's worth a conversation with Mr. Morgan, but we believe that it's great to have that consistency right through their educational process. They build really close connections with their form tutor, excellent connections with their peers, and yes, they keep that consistency.
Thank you, Mr. Wells. And someone's just asked here, is there any time between each lesson to get to the next lesson or have independent learning? Well, yes, there is transition time between the lessons, but in Year 7 to 11, there's no study periods built into the framework, but they do have their break and lunchtime periods. But at those times, we would encourage them to step away from the studying and to go and spend some time with their friends and connect with other people. That's really, really important they do that throughout the school day, not just focusing on their academic subjects. Okay, I think that is all of the questions that we have today that have been coming in. So if we haven't been able to answer your question, if you are thinking that you've got something else that you would like to ask, then please just send us an email or get in touch and we will get back to you. So Mr. O'Neill, did you want to just say something to finalise the proceedings today?
Yeah, thank you, Miss Bennington. Yeah, I'd just like to close by once again thanking you all for joining us this afternoon. I really do hope that the sense of partnership has come through in what myself and my colleagues have been talking to you about. It really is the cornerstone of our school and the education we provide. We say a lot that our school is about the relationships within it, and those relationships, of course, include those with you, our parents. So thank you once again for attending, and we very much look forward to meeting with you in person in August.
Thank you. Bye.
Okay, bye-bye.